What you just did.
I heard what she said.
Live.
We're live. Hello, YouTube.
Also,
Hey,
hey,
hello.
technical difficulties.
Yeah.
We got technical.
Praying AI demons every day for a living. That's what you do.
Yes. Oh, so tonight.
Oh. Okay.
What?
Never mind.
Never
Yeah.
mind what?
Well, it was looking like it was in vertical, but
Okay.
when I clicked on it, it went to horizontal.
Don't scare me like that.
Well, I scared myself too. So.
Oh, no.
I scared in my widow's cell. Okay, we are completely off the rails tonight.
So let's take it from the
Completely
top.
unorganized. So, I'm Jack Perkins. This is Nate Perkins. This is Shield and Buckler. We do this every Tuesday night and try and bring you guys topics that relate to day-to-day life, how it walks and talks in all that you do. And tonight we're going to talk about parenting is discipleship and vice versa. They kind of go hand in hand. They're one in the same, actually. So I did some looking around. We have, my theory has always been that we have three generations from the 1950s, which I was part of. I was born in 59. So from 1950s until now, we have three generations that a good percentage of them were not raised. They were either single parent families, and I'm not getting down on single moms or single dads or anything else that are doing this, because you've got an amazing amount of work, and I know a lot of you are doing a really good job at it, but it's tough. Yeah. So a lot of single parents, a lot of busy parents. I went through a period of time I was too busy, shouldn't have been that busy for my family, but I was, and I understand it is hard to balance between work, providing for your family economically, and providing for your family spiritually. And so, but we're going to talk about a little bit of that tonight. I went ahead and did some research here. I had Claude do some research for me.
But he's going to take credit for it.
I'm going to take credit for it because I can do that. I asked it about what the trends were for single family or single parent households. In 1960, it was 9% of the households were single parent. 1923 was 25%, quarter of the population.
You said 1923.
I'm sorry, 2023.
Okay.
I'm all here. But it was 25%. So it went up 16 percentage points in 63 years. Okay. That's only 1 percentage point every 4 years. So that's just a slow climb, right? Between 23 and 26, 3 years, it went up to 28%. That's a percentage point per year. So this is the kind of graph you're looking at, is something that was a slow climb, and then now it's doing this, and it's doing pretty rapidly. Yeah. And again, I'm not getting on single parent. I'm just saying it's a hard job, and without some help, it's really hard. I know a lot of people are having aunts and uncles and grandparents and parents help them, which is great because you need that extra help. But some of the problems with it is, and these are federal and international groups that are saying this. We have the Institution for Family Studies. It says that single parenthood experiences higher rates of violent crime at 118% higher and 255% higher rates of homicide. And a lot of that is because of where they have to live, because they can't afford some of the better places to live. America First Policy Institute shows data that 70% of juveniles in state-operated correctional institutions grew up in a single-parent household. So 70% of those kids grew up with a single parent. National Institute of Justice. Juveniles are more likely, 59% more likely to be arrested as juveniles and 30% more as adults than those raised in a two-parent household. Let's see, National Institute for Health shows that there's a real strong correlation between violence and single-parent households. So in short, the data shows that the lack of stable parenting or severe neglect, because I asked it also for, people who are not raised or raised in abusive environments, significantly strips away a child's foundational safety net. This increases their statistic vulnerability to systemic pressures, which can ultimately manifest as localized violent crime or broader social unrest. So if you are a single parent out there, my heart goes out to you. I've helped in a number of situations, and I've seen how hard that is. So you need to be reaching out for other people around you to help. Co-parenting, involvement in the church, things of that nature, that will give you more support and a broader perspective to be able to see what's going on with your child.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I've completely taken over the conversation.
Oh, no, you're doing good. I'm researching some of the stuff that, or looking up some of the scriptures that I would want to use, but if the more trusted people that you can get around your kids, the more that they will open up and help express the things that they don't even know are problems. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of the issue is that they just know they feel a certain way.
Yep.
They don't know why, how, they don't know that it's normal. They don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that they are trying to figure out that have repercussions from things they don't even know bothered them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and the most important thing that I have had is the fact that, my wife thinks differently than I do. And she's been able to identify a lot of things that I had no clue about. And I think differently than she does. And I've been able to identify a lot of things that she didn't understand was going on. And between the two of us, we were able to see a lot, see and help and correct a lot of things. And then they had grandparents on both sides that were helping to make sure that they didn't run into, some of the early developmental pitfalls that happened. And even though that there was some stupid stuff that me and my wife, just from our own issues, brought in, there's annoying things that grandparents brought in that was unnecessary. Even with all of those things, we can see that the Lord has had his hand in helping to guide them through all of it. And so, having people that you trust that are sound scripturally and have their lives in fairly decent order is extremely important. We've had a few people that we've helped go from young teenager to don't have a place to live to getting them out into the world, and them being connected in our group of people that has helped coach them through just doing life. Because life is tough, and we all know that.
Yeah.
Just getting them through that is so important. Yeah. to and a lot of it's just because the enemy has games that he likes to play.
And isolation is one of the
Yep.
biggest ones. If he can isolate you, if you think, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how to do this, and I'm doing it all wrong, and all this kind of stuff. The enemy loves that because he can get you separated and keep you away from good, strong advice.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times the advice just is, it's like the other day, my wife, we found out that we were talking to her nephew and his wife, and they were telling us about their 3-year-old, which luckily his mom is doing their daycare. So they have a good Christian woman.
That's awesome.
Being taking care of him during the day, and then they have him back at night. And it's like, so it's a really good arrangement for all of them. But because she'd already warned them that the terrible twos really aren't 2. They start closer to 3, and it's really the terrible 3s.
Yeah.
And so because they knew that.
Terrible 3s doesn't rhyme though.
It doesn't rhyme, no. But it made it a little easier. It's like they had an incident the other day. We went to Cracker Barrel. I went to lunch for somebody's birthday or something. And he wanted his dad to come see something. And so he's over there and he comes walking up and he said, "Dad, come here." And he walked back. And he walked back up. And he goes, "Dad, come here." And he walked back. And he was in the middle of a conversation. And so pretty soon he walks back over to where this thing was that he wanted to show his dad. And he stomped his foot and says, "Dad, come here right now." And instead of having to take that personally, we all laugh because we know that's typical for that. And he was able to walk over and go, "That is not how you asked me to do things. You understand?" And he went, And so, but he didn't get upset. Nobody, did anything else because we'd been through that before and we knew that's what they do at that age. It's, so even just having that kind of reassurance, that's like, you're not doing something wrong with your kid because they did that at 3 years old. They all do that kind of stuff.
Which I would have walked over to the kid. Did he walk over to the kid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have walked over to the kid. I would be like,
yeah,
you are coming to me.
Yeah. No, he walked over to him and took his hand and turned him around where he had to face him. And he went, "That is not how you ask your dad to do things. Do you understand?" And he went,
And here the kid's like, "But you're over here."
Yeah.
Huh? He didn't look at the thing?
Yeah, he just let him off. That's true. He did. He just walked him back.
That's
over to the
good.
group.
That's really good. Yeah.
It's
A lot of parents will be like, "All right, that's not how you do it." And then they'll be like, "Oh, okay, I see what you're wanting me to see." And then they walk away and they didn't realize.
Yeah, the kid went.
They train their kid
That
that they can get what they want.
So it's helpful to have that kind of input when you have your 12-year-old come into the room and tell you, "I hate you," and you've already been warned that a 12-year-old is able to do. Well, you, but if you're already been warned that a 12-year-old is able to. We got peanut gallery over here making all kinds of noise. But if you already know that those kind of things,
he's not going to name any names, but he only has 2 kids.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what they're laughing about over there.
So, yeah, now that that's out there. Sorry, sunshine. But that's really normal. I mean, that is very, very normal. Most kids. His instead was getting in my face and telling me, "Dad, you don't understand," and lectured me on how I didn't understand life at 13. So, but I also knew that was coming, and he'd been put in a situation where he was responsible for things that were way beyond his normal age level and all that would have been, and he did it. He pulled it off. So I was really proud that he did. So I let him blow off. He got all done. And I went, "You done?" And he went, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, we're still going to go up and go do that project now." And it's like, I could just see him kind of relax. It's like, oh, but I had to allow that because I could see it coming. And I remembered as a kid, and I remember seeing other kids go through this. And it was they were growing up, where you hit that point where you become frustrated with your parents or what you think they think of you or anything else. You get frustrated at that point, and you've got to be able to get that out. Mm-hmm. And if the parent reacts too quickly to it and slaps them down for it, you'll never get the opportunity to walk through that part of the relationship with them.
So what's the parallel there in discipleship when someone comes in?
Yeah, and in discipleship, you need to be able to you got to check your pride at the door, because sometimes you're going to be discipling somebody and you're going to say something that hits an old wound, and you're going to get a reaction. And if you blow back at them because of that reaction, then you run the risk of chasing them off.
Mm-hmm.
They go, you're just judgmental and hypocritical, and I don't want anything to do with you.
Closing them off.
Right. So what you need to do is check your pride, and learn to react appropriately. And it gets back to the thing we talk about all the time about you've got to be prayerful in the things that you do. If a person blows up in your face, go, okay, Lord, show me. And take that 10, 20, 30 seconds to slow down, wait for the Lord to show you what's going on, and then be able to respond appropriately instead of just reacting. Because 99% of the time, our reactions are wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, there was one point where when he was lecturing me, I wanted to reach out and go, but I didn't. Thank you, Lord. That was the Lord who did that.
And if you've learned to temper yourself and not allow yourself to just emote at everything, mm-hmm. then not 90% of your reactions are wrong, but 90% of your initial feelings. So that part of you, whether you react outwardly, that internal reaction, right, 90% of the time is wrong. It's just some people have learned how to temper that and not let everything through. And some people just let it all. Well, the feeling itself is not wrong. The feeling is not wrong.
But how you react.
Yes.
Do you react out of respect, which is love, Christian love? Right. Do you react in a godly way? Do you react in a patient way? And that doesn't mean being a doormat. It means sometimes your reaction may be just throw up your hands and walk away and go, I'm done. When you need to really be very firm and go, no, that's not acceptable. You can't do that. You can't treat people that way. Right. And back the person up. That's why you got to be prayerful, because the next time something like that happens, it may be a time just to shut up, listen, and hear what they have to say, because it's coming from a point of hurt. You poked a sore spot and they scream and jump. Don't scream and jump back. If they're just being a jerk and trying to chase you off, and you're not supposed to back down, then be firm and respond prayerfully to whatever the situation is. Makes a big difference.
Yep. I know that whenever I'm frustrated at my wife, the first 5 or 6 options that roll through my brain are not the thing to say and not the thing to do. Yeah, they are. They are wrong every single time. I'm going to say this, I'm going to do that, or this is what. And each time I think of how I'm going to respond. I'm like, no. And a lot of it is, I believe, the Holy Spirit saying, that's a bad, that's a bad long-term outcome. That's a bad long-term outcome. That's a bad long-term outcome. And so what we need to weigh it against is if it is going to create unity, if it's going to create clarity, and if it is going to help bring and bond the relationship closer together, or if it's going to create anger, bitterness, resentment, right? Because all of those things are seeds, and you plant a seed and it grows.
Yeah.
And so if your response, instantly you get that initial feeling, you need to start weighing it against those things. Is it going to create unity, or is it going to create division? Is it going to draw us closer together, or is it going to create resentment? Is it going to, right? And if you're only letting things come out of your mouth that are going to do one of those first 3, then you are cultivating healthy relationships, whether you make mistakes or not.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're gonna make mistakes. Right. But if you're weighing everything against that, then you are going to limit your mistakes so drastically that even when you do make a mistake, people won't turn around and say, well, you did this and you did that and you never cared and you never this and you never that. Right.
Yep.
And so when it comes to spouse relationships, when it comes to children relationships, that they all work off the same principles.
Yep. It comes back to love, which Christian love isn't just an emotion. It's an action. It's respect. You read 1 Corinthians 13, and it is all about respect and treating people right. And that's in discipleship, that's incredibly important, because if you treat people with respect, they will trust you. If you don't treat them with respect, they will not trust you. They won't open their heart. They won't listen to what you're saying, because they're not going to risk it on someone who doesn't respect them.
Okay.
Yep.
Got a question. I cannot do the computer.
Okay, it's out.
How do you show respect to a person that you truly don't have respect for?
That's a good question. How do you show
That
respect?
happens a lot in Christian circles.
Yeah.
You fly both of them. Never mind.
Yeah. How do you show respect to a someone who you have no respect for? That's difficult. We were just laughing the other day, and it sounds funny, but the thing was, I have actually prayed this prayer, and that was, Lord, let me hit him just once. I'll make it count. I promise. And actually prayed that prayer in a confrontation. Not a good thing to pray, but God is very patient with us. And so one of the big things is honesty with the Lord and going, Lord, I do not like this person. I do not trust this person.
Old country song, thank God for unanswered prayers.
Yes. That person standing there with doesn't realize that he's probably very thankful. There was another time. One particular job, there was a guy who was always coming over and doing things in the midst of our department. And not only was he doing it without permission, he was doing it wrong, creating more work for us. And you happen to know the person. Mm-hmm. And then we were at church, and it was before DK and I got married, and I was standing back at the back, and she was standing next to me, and he came walking right up in front of me and stopped and stood there and was watching the service. And I went, Lord, I really don't want this guy around me. I have no respect for him. I don't want to be around him. Just make him go away. And all of a sudden, I got this picture in my head of him laying on the ground as a kid, still looked like him, curled up in fetal position, and a whole bunch of kids kicking at him. I went, oh. And she said next to me, and sorry for the language, but the words out of my mouth were, oh, crap. And she goes, what? I said, I told her what I saw, and I said, the Lord told me to start praying for him. And so I did. You know, I made it a point. I'd see him, and the first thing I'd do is the hair on the back of my neck start stand up, and I'd have to pray for him. And pretty soon, all that went away. All the anger and irritation and everything else went away. And he came up to me one day and said, I want to do this over in your department. What do I need to do? And it was like, oh my God, okay, here, this is what I need. This is how it needs to be done. If you can do it that way, you're more than welcome to do it. Okay, great, I'll go do it. And it was like, wow. And then I ended up sitting with him at a couple of men's breakfasts and things like that. And it's like, it made a difference. All of a sudden, we had a relationship. And even though I really still didn't have a full trust.
You didn't want it.
Huh? Yeah, I didn't want it. I didn't want it at all. I had had enough of the man. And even though I didn't fully trust him, because I still watch him do things that would just fly in the face of whoever he was dealing with at the time. He wasn't doing it to me anymore, but
So basically, if God asked him to reach his hand down and pull him out of hell, he would have asked him first, is there another part of heaven we could put him in?
No, because now I have no problem with the man. I've sat across the table and had breakfast with him and chatted with him. And everything else. But it started off with, if he were out there drowning in the lake, I'd have to look at the lifesaver a couple times before I threw it out there. I was like, let's see. I mean, seriously, I had a severe problem, and it wasn't totally undeserved either. I mean, he had done wrong even after being asked not to multiple times. So to show respect to those people, you do it really prayerfully. You need to do it in a protected position. You need to do it where you can, keep your guard up. We talked about last week about sometimes you have conversations with people who are on the edge of being very violent, someone screaming at your face or anything. You don't have to hit them. You don't have to do anything else. Put your hand up like this and you got your guard right there. If you need it to block anything if they start throwing punches or something like that, go ahead and guard. It's okay. Yeah. Do it prayerfully. Don't make a permanent judgment on that person. It's okay to say, this person is doing this and it's wrong. That behavior is not acceptable and I'm not going to put up with it. Those kinds of things are fine. When the behavior changes, change your position with them. And that applies to confrontations at work, applies to confrontations with your kids, in discipleship, in any of these things. That always applies. Prayerfully change positions as they change position.
Yeah.
If they come back and go, man, I'm sorry, I was out of line when they came up, screamed, shouted in your face and everything else, and you went, no, I'm not doing this. You can go in the other room. I'm done. And then they come back later and go, man, I'm sorry, I really blew it. I should not have done that, and I was out of line. Then accept the apology. Still stay a little guarded. Accept the apology. Take things to the next step in relationship and respect with them. And it makes a huge difference if you can adjust. And if they can see you adjust like that, say, okay, yeah, I accept your apology. And so let's sit down and talk. Let's talk about what you were screaming about yesterday. Let's have a conversation, sit down. And it does work even at work. I had one guy that he had bullied the bosses before at a job. And I mean, he would come in just screaming and shouting, what the F's wrong with you? And you guys don't know what you're doing. And you're a bunch of idiots and this and that. No. And the other guys would scream back at him. And he would get them off balance. And then he could kind of do what he wanted.
As soon as they got mad.
Yeah. And he tried that on me. The first time he tried it on me, I spun around from my desk. I was working on the computer. I spun around from my desk, folded my arms, leaned back in the chair. And he was yelling and calling me names, this and that, no, and he got all done. I went, you done? He went, yeah. I said, okay, you still need to go out there and do your job. What? I said, you still need to go out there and do your job. Well, and he walked on out and slammed the door as he was going out, and I turned back around and went back to work. So from there on out, when he'd come in, I'd hear him slam the door, right? And I just turn around in my chair and fold my arms. And this third time, right? Second time he ranted a little bit and then went back out. Third time I rolled around and he walked through the door. He got about halfway across the open office there and he stopped. Okay, we got this and this wrong. Okay. What do you think is the best way to fix it? What? What do you think is the best way to fix it? If I do this and this, it'll fix it. Okay. That'll work. Thank you. Okay. And he walked back out and did the job. And it was like, because I really felt like the Lord told me when he first started doing that to one of the other guys, I saw it. I went, Lord, help me handle this guy right, because I know I can either be a good witness to him and then later on, he and I got in a conversation. We were having to wait around for a truck to come in. And it was just him and I, because I wasn't allowed to do it because it was union and I was the supervisor. And so I had to wait with him so he could unload the truck that was coming in late. I go, okay. So we sat down in the lunchroom And he starts unloading on me about how he'd been hurt by a church. And it was like, wow. And so I had an opportunity to really share with him about who Jesus really was, and that what his responsibility was to the Lord rather than the false responsibilities that he felt like this church was trying to put on him. Whether they were or not, I don't know. That's their business. But I really had an opportunity to share the real gospel with him, and he listened. And later on, he ended up with he got in a bad accident and ended up in the hospital. I called him up and told him I was praying for him and this and that, and he was really touched by it. So these kind of learning how to, like you said, check your reactions and react in a godly way, react prayerfully, will change the way people see you. They will change the way people trust you in family relationships, with your spouse, with your kids, with your parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, in work relationships, in your discipleship, in the community, in your church. These things work. Prayerfully respond to these people, not completely out of sheer reaction.
Well, and going back to DK's question about whether or not or how you respect somebody who doesn't deserve respect, there's different levels of respect. Like getting up and walking away from a conversation, that right in the middle of someone actually talking, like that's just not. So there's different levels of respect, and so everybody deserves a certain amount of just human decency as a level of respect, period. Right. The individual that you're talking about first, that, you're like you didn't want anything to do with that individual. There was a lack of just human decency that where you're like, I've had enough with this person that I don't even know if I would even offer them just basic human decency at the very bottom, right? So even prisoners, right? A prisoner that's in there for white collar crimes, right? They should get the same respect as a human as a rapist, a murderer, any of the other criminals, right? And the reason is because at the core we are all still humans, right? An animal should get a certain amount of respect, no matter what kind of animal it is. A bulldog that people are afraid of should end up getting a certain amount of respect just because it's a living, breathing being, right? And so when you go to a stockyard and you see guys kicking the sheep while they're down and just being idiots, there's a part of you that's like, oh man, like you don't have to act like that. You know what I mean? When you watch videos of inmates, getting beat just because they think that they can, or the way that old civilizations used to treat their prisoners, like those kinds of things should not happen. Everybody should get a certain amount of common decency. Right.
So there was a mistake in the church where it started to become a common saying, well, they're all God's children. No, they're not. Jesus called a lot of people sons of the devil. So they're not God's children, but they are God's creation. And they deserve salvation as much as you do.
Yeah. And so when you're trying to figure out whether or not they deserve respect or not, it should be more about what type of respect have they earned.
Right.
Because the when Jesus is talking to the disciples and he says, it's you bet, or it's more, you love someone more the best. Oh man, I am so butchering this.
Which one?
About the most love that you could show someone is to give your life for them. And
Right.
I like totally butchered the way that Jesus said it. But whenever he said that to them, he was explaining to them, like, I'm about to lay my life down for you. And then he said, but then, while everyone was, my enemy, right? I still died for that individual, even though they saw me as their enemy, right? And so if an individual is worth laying down your life for, as just the fact that their soul is worth something,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then it's worth it for us to try and get over our differences, over our issues, and at least try to offer them a common decency, respect at a base level that is not subhuman, or even, and this is something that you see nowadays, is that a lot of times, a lot of like very extreme individuals view the life of an animal at a higher regard than a lot of humans. And so, they'll say, slaughter that person like a pig, and then they'll turn around and be okay with locking someone up for life for neglecting a pet. And to me, it doesn't even make sense, because there's definitely a hierarchy, but there's just a decency that should be shown to all living creatures, period.
Right. And one of the things you have to remember too is Jesus showed different levels of trust to different people.
Right.
He showed them all the same respect. He died for all of them. So he saw their soul is worth dying for.
Yep.
But he showed them different levels of respect. The Pharisees, as a group, became like a pack of rabid dogs.
Yep.
They were doing nothing but just tearing at him, as much as they could.
And
he showed them very little trust.
And he actually cussed them out.
Yeah, and he put them down. He put them in their place, everything else. There's Nicodemus.
There's two words in the Old Testament that back then were actually curse words, like saying, like, you are a female dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been that level, like that classification is what he referred to the Pharisees as.
Yeah. And so
and Paul used one of them too.
Oh yeah, Paul was fierce.
He actually used a curse word to describe a certain group of people.
Yeah. And so the difference is the level of trust.
Yeah.
Because when Nicodemus came to him individually and asked him, okay, I don't understand what you're talking about. What do I need to do? And Jesus said, unless you're born again, you can't enter into the kingdom. And he goes, I don't understand.
Like, I'm a big dude, bro.
Yeah.
My mom doesn't want that.
I can't go back into my mom's womb. And it's like, but Jesus had a frank discussion with him. He showed him a different level of trust because he was coming to ask questions. The woman at the well, he showed an incredible amount of trust to.
Yep.
Because she was coming honestly. And so he opened up and trusted her with more information and with more access. And so that's the difference, is the trust. It can't be your level of respect or your level of love for the person. What you have to meter is the amount of trust that you can give them. And so you have to, learn how to do that. And sometimes that happens with your kids too. It's like, okay, he's a 3-year-old. He's going to be loud. He's able to throw fits. He's able to do this. He's able to do that. I can only give him so much trust, or else he's going to hurt himself. That's all there is to it. Or somebody else is going to hurt him because he's being obnoxious to somebody. And so that's where the difference is. And man, we're already going through almost a full hour already. We're going to have to continue this one. I got a whole bunch of notes I want to share with you guys, and I didn't even get to them. We need to learn to prayerfully respond. We need to learn how to show love for even our enemies, like Jesus said. We need to learn how to let the Lord measure our trust level for those people, because that's where it's at. You don't open, Jesus talked about don't throw your pearls, you don't throw pearls before swine, because they'll just eat them up,
We get lost in the mud.
Yeah, they'll get lost in the mud and trampled. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your resources. And so we need to learn to know what to trust, right? And what level of trust we give. And if someone's, just beating on you with words, then just give them simple answers and back up, or stand your ground, or whatever you need to do. It's basically, it's the same thing as parenting. It is exactly the same thing as parenting. And I think we're gonna go ahead and kind of wrap it up here and get back into this next week, because then I want to get into some of the things that need to be done and what the scriptures say about all of this. And DK brought up some stuff about some of the easiest situations to help disciple other people. Same things you'd use for parenting. Finding ways where you can listen and talk without it being confrontational. Work together on a project. If they're doing a church cleanup weekend and there's somebody that you feel like Lord's really laid upon your heart, but you have some issues with, and you have, or you feel like they have some issues with you, go work with them. Say, oh, you're stacking firewood, I'll help you stack firewood. And go help them. Go work together on a project. Oh, I heard you're helping your dad clean up his yard. Oh, do you mind if I stop by and give you a hand? And any of those kind of things. Share a project together. It makes a difference. Sit down over a meal, someplace where you can actually have a conversation. Some places not too loud, some places not too many distractions. Sit down, have a meal, and just talk. Just talk and let them talk, and listen actively. That's a big deal. You can do the same thing on a trip. If you find out, oh, I've got to go all the way up to Kansas City to go pick up my uncle at the airport. Oh, you want somebody to ride along with you? That gives you an amazing opportunity to have some conversations, have some real in-depth conversations, and make those conversations prayerful, like we keep talking about here. Be able to just stop and go, okay, Lord, show me what's going on. Help me to see what you're doing, because I want to be part of that. And it does make a big difference. So, anything else you wanted to add to that before we? This week, I would like you guys to really be prayerful about and thoughtful about what your conversation is, and not just words but actions, with your people at work, with the people in church, with the people, with your next door neighbor, and practice being really prayerful on those. And then especially if you've got kids at home, with your kids, with your spouse, be really prayerful. Learn not to be super reactive. Learn to be more thoughtful and prayerful in the way you respond to things, and really work on that. Because next week we're going to get more into some of the scriptures about what is discipline, what is discipleship, what is what we're commanded by the scriptures to do. And then if you come up with a character in the scripture that you feel was an example of very good parenting or very poor parenting, put it down in the notes, and we'll discuss that person next week. I've got 2 of them here I had in mind. So We'll talk about that. So talk about respect. Luckily, mine didn't ring because I forgot to shut mine off too. So, yeah, I don't know. I just really be prayerful about that because I feel like there's probably people watching that are having problems with people at work or church or wherever in their organizations that they're involved in, that you need to be more prayerful towards, that you need to be more respectful to, but also learn to measure your trust with what they're doing or what they're saying.
Yep.
So, and above all, don't take everything personally. That's one of the biggest tricks that we've learned, especially when it comes to kids, it comes to employees, it comes to anything else. Don't think everything's about you.
Yep.
Don't take it so personal, because that's something that will cause you to blow up over and over again at times when you don't need to. And I can tell you because I've done it.
Yep.
This is one of those, see this scar right here? kind of things. I can tell you, don't do that. Would you mind closing in prayer?
All right. Lord, we just we thank you for the fact that that you are who you say you are, that you're faithful, and that that you love us, that you allow for us to communicate with you, and that that we're grateful that you sent your helper, the Holy Spirit, to be able to talk to us and help us understand you, Lord. And Lord, we just ask that this time that we spend helps us to understand you better, get closer to you, and we just ask that that you remind us of these things throughout the week as you continue to teach us and to mold us and help us to come into better unity with you. And we just thank you. We love you. In your name I pray, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. All right, guys. Come back next week. We'll get more into this and we'll see what the Lord has for us to see next week. So love you guys. We'll see you Tuesday.
See ya.
I didn't even check the notes at all.